In the heart of the Rocky Mountains, nestled between towering peaks and dense forests, lies the serene yet ominous Whispering Pines National Park. Known for its breathtaking vistas and challenging trails, it attracts adventurers from all over. But beneath the beauty, there lurks a chilling history of disappearances and unsolved mysteries. Local legends speak of the Shadow Walker, a malevolent presence that haunts the remote trails, preying on those who dare to venture too far. Daniel, an experienced hiker and outdoor enthusiast, had always dreamed of exploring the remote trails of Whispering Pines. After months of planning, he finally set off on his journey, determined to conquer the park's most treacherous trail, the Lost Trail. It was said to be both beautiful and perilous, with few having completed it and returned. The trailhead was marked by an old, weathered sign warning of dangerous conditions ahead. Daniel shrugged off the caution, confident in his abilities. With a backpack full of supplies and a map in hand, he began his ascent, the excitement of adventure fueling his every step. As Daniel hiked deeper into the wilderness, he couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The forest seemed to close in around him, the trees whispering secrets he couldn't understand. He encountered other hikers along the way, each with their own stories of strange occurrences, eerie noises at night, unsettling feelings of being watched, and sightings of shadowy figures. One evening, as he set up camp, an old hiker approached him. The man had a weathered face and a haunted look in his eyes. He warned Daniel about the Shadow Walker, describing it as a dark presence that moved silently through the forest, watching and waiting. Daniel laughed it off, attributing the stories to superstition and overactive imaginations. Several days into his hike, Daniel began to notice strange things. His compass malfunctioned, spinning wildly without settling. The map, once clear and straightforward, seemed to change, leading him in circles. He felt a constant prickling at the back of his neck, as if unseen eyes were following his every move. One night, as he lay in his tent, he heard whispers outside. They were faint, barely audible, but unmistakably human. Gathering his courage, he unzipped the tent and shone his flashlight into the darkness. There was nothing there. The whispers stopped, but the feeling of being watched intensified. The further Daniel hiked, the more erratic his thoughts became. He started seeing shadows that moved on their own, shapes flitting between the trees just out of sight. His dreams were plagued with nightmares of being chased by a dark, faceless figure. Exhaustion and fear began to take their toll. One evening, he stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin. Desperate for shelter and rest, he decided to spend the night there. Inside, he found signs of previous occupants, discarded belongings, a rusted stove, and a journal. The journal belonged to a hiker named Sarah, who had vanished on the Lost Trail years ago. Her last entry spoke of the Shadow Walker, describing how it followed her, how she felt its presence growing stronger each day until she could no longer escape. The next morning, Daniel woke to find strange symbols carved into the walls of the cabin. They were symbols of protection, meant to ward off evil. He realized Sarah had been trying to protect herself from the Shadow Walker. The realization sent a chill down his spine. He had to leave the cabin and find his way back to civilization before it was too late. As he packed his gear, he noticed a figure standing at the edge of the clearing. It was tall and dark, its features obscured by shadow. Panic surged through him, and he bolted from the cabin, running blindly through the forest. The figure pursued him, always just behind, no matter how fast he ran or how many twists and turns he took. Daniel's flight through the forest was a blur of terror and desperation. He stumbled over roots and rocks, branches clawing at his clothes and skin. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices urging him to give up, to surrender to the darkness. But he pressed on, driven by sheer willpower and the primal urge to survive. Eventually, he reached the edge of a steep cliff. With no other option, he began to climb down, his hands and feet finding precarious holds on the rocky surface. The Shadow Walker appeared at the top, looking down at him with malevolent intent. Daniel's grip slipped, and he fell, tumbling down the cliffside and landing hard on a narrow ledge below. When Daniel awoke, it was daylight. His body ached, and he was covered in cuts and bruises, but he was alive. The Shadow Walker was nowhere in sight. He slowly made his way down the mountain, each step a painful reminder of his ordeal. Days later, he emerged from the forest, disheveled and delirious, but safe. Local authorities found him and took him to the nearest hospital. His story of the Shadow Walker was met with skepticism and disbelief, but the terror in his eyes was undeniable. Daniel knew what he had experienced was real, even if no one else believed him. Daniel never returned to the mountains. The experience had changed him, leaving him haunted by memories of the Shadow Walker and the whispers of the forest. Whispering Pines remained a popular destination for hikers and adventurers, but the legend of the Shadow Walker persisted. Some dismissed it as a ghost story, while others swore they could feel its presence when the sun dipped below the horizon and the shadows began to lengthen. The Lost Trail, with its beauty and its dangers, continued to lure the brave and the foolhardy. But those who ventured too far, who ignored the warnings and the whispers, would sometimes find themselves face to face with the darkness that dwelled within the heart of Whispering Pines. And so, the legend lived on, a chilling reminder that some places are best left unexplored, and some shadows are more than they appear.
Don't forget to subscribe.